Hi, my name is Fabienne Cola. I'm the president and founder of the Montreal International Black Film Festival. Welcome to the 16th annual Montreal International Black Film Festival, created by the Fabienne Colas Foundation and presented by Québécois in collaboration with Desjardins. The festival runs from September 23rd until October 4th, 2020, and we have for you a festival that is 100% online, a virtual festival where you can stay home with your family and enjoy the festival in your PJs. So do not hesitate to go and check out the program on montrealblackfilm.com and grab your all access pass so you can access over 120 films from 30 countries. Thank you for supporting Black filmmakers. Thank you for amplifying Black voices. The panel today is part of our MIBFF Black Market series presented by Telefilm Canada and Quebec Council for the Arts. So enjoy the panel.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Montreal's International Black Film Festival. Today, we are featuring our panel for Meet the Filmmakers for 2020 Black Market. So, starting with, I'm going to bring them on here. This is the first time we are doing this virtual. I'm used to doing it live, so please bear with me as we are doing this virtually and trying to have some fun with that. So, okay. So, introducing the his film is an award nominated short, A Storybook Ending. Producer, director, and writer Lonray Olabisi. And look out for her documentary short, Canada's Unchecked Racism, from Toronto, Canada, now residing in Washington, D.C., director, cinematographer, and producer Zoe Davidson. Filmmaker, producer, writer, and actor, and anthropologist. Showing her documentary, Ballet in the Dark, Barbara Azare Bidiaco. And a graduate from Ryerson University, originally from the U.S., immigrated at a young age to Toronto, Canada. Director, writer, and editor of the short and uninvited guest, Richard B. Pierre. So I'd like to welcome you all to virtually visiting Montreal at our Montreal International Black Film Festival. And so this panel, we encourage, usually in live, we have an audience of filmmakers, actors, people in the industry either getting started or have been starting and trying to get work and looking for work. And one of the things that we always encourage every filmmaker is networking, because networking is key. And also, I feel like, for over several years, that people learn from everybody's experience. And I just realized that I did not introduce myself, and my name is Joseph Hong. And I am the owner of MSOPA and casting, MSOPA casting. So I would like to start off with Lonray. I got it right.
That is correct.
I every now and then I have my head and tongue don't come together, and I'll be pronouncing things. So Lonray Olabisi, and I'm just going to give you the solo layout. Tell us a little bit more about your experience and about your, what inspired you to do this.
So in terms of my experience for making films, I've written and directed 2 feature films. My first film is called August the 1st, which was a family drama, and my second film was called Somewhere in the Middle, which was a romantic dramedy. And then the new film that's in the film festival is it's a short film. It is a neo-noir dark comedy about a black man who accidentally kills an undercover white police officer and tries to get away with it, right? The ensuing cover-up just leads to deceit, blackmail, and then ultimately murder. And one of the things, or the impetus or the idea, was really born out of what happened with James Blake back in 2015. And for the people who are not familiar with that, James Blake is a retired black tennis star here in the United States, and it was the U.S. Open, and he was waiting for a taxi to take him to the tournament, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without ever announcing himself, he's tackled to the ground by an undercover cop who just threw him down to the ground, started throwing cuffs on him, but he didn't, for a while, for like the first 5-10 seconds, James Blake didn't know what the hell was happening to him. He just knew that he was being attacked by somebody, right? And luckily, he didn't fight back. He just fell to the ground, right? And I remember thinking when I saw that, well, if that happened to me, I would fight back. And one of the things, I'm 6'2", I weigh 240 pounds. I wrestled at the University of Michigan. I have an extensive martial arts background. So I thought to myself, wow, what would happen if I did fight back? And what would happen if I did hurt the police officer? And what would happen if I just made a bunch of bad choices after that happened? And that was really the impetus for the idea.
Okay. All right. And thank you so much, Lonray. And Zoe, I'm learning to be an editor at the same time. And Zoe, I know that you're originally from Toronto. I was going to say Montreal, from Toronto. What inspired you to go to Howard University?
Oh, I had done acting for a long time. I did it in high school in Toronto, and I wanted to continue pursuing acting. I'd applied to a bunch of schools and, was thinking about going to Howard, but actually went to Oberlin for undergrad. But I always wanted to go to an HBCU to sort of experience the culture and experience, being able to sort of learn in, I don't want to say a safe space, but a space where I could see other people who looked like me and talk about things that I felt were more relevant to me. So I did my undergrad in theater, and then I went to Howard for my MFA in film, because Howard is actually the only HBCU with a graduate film program. So that really pushed me to go there. So yeah, and I think it was a great decision on my part, and I'm really glad I got in and got to have that experience.
Okay, and well, I did not know that your background was from acting, because myself being training actors for over 28 years, I see them start at a young age and then go into filmmaking. Some of them have graduated from AFI and various schools for filmmaking, and find their true passion. Can you tell us a little bit about your film?
Yeah. So my film, Canada's Unchecked Racism, is basically it's a short doc, but it's focusing on myself and my brother. And my brother is 10 years younger than me. Both of our experiences growing up in Markham, Ontario, and sort of dealing with the racist tendencies that some folks have kind of exhibited towards us, and how racism in Canada, it can be overt, but a lot of the times it's more nuanced than most people might think. When they're watching TV and they see, who they might consider a racist, you don't really see as much of that, I found, growing up in Canada. But it was still very present and very, very nuanced and kind of ingrained into the society. So I did the doc because I wanted to sort of share that experience a bit more. And I was living in the US, funnily enough, when I came up with the concept, but I noticed that people in America kind of thought that Canada was this paradise. And I basically wanted to challenge that in a way that hopefully would lead to productive change.
Thank you. And Barbara?
Yeah.
Sorry. Again, I'm a little bit technical challenged. So it's like these buttons that you got to press and make sure. So, Barbara, I know that you started off as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is this your directorial debut?
Yes, it is actually my I'm going to get my tongue twisted with that word, but directorial debut. Yes, it is. I am a SAG-AFTRA actor, so honestly, my writing and filmmaking really started as a way to create work for myself and tell stories I want to tell. I've had, a couple of plays, read Kennedy Center New Play Festival. I took classes at Negro Ensemble Company in New York, had some pieces read there. But then I got to a point where I realized that even as a writer and as a business person, I really needed to know the business. So I am just actually coming out of a program in May 18th at Johns Hopkins University. So I'm not going to say that I don't want to act, but I am enjoying being a producer, and I think I'm fairly good at it. And I've also in school directed myself, so I enjoy all levels of the business. Also an anthropologist, which, there's just this natural affinity for me for documentary. And I think that's my first master's. But had I really known that there was such an affinity, I think I might have gone a different way and started doing more films. But I just find that very interesting. Anything dealing with the stories of people. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And one of what you getting started with, doing this to find yourself some more work, your own work, and it's something that is new. It's not new. Sorry, I stand corrected. But in order to get noticed, because if you're waiting for the phone to ring, you'll be waiting. So you need to go and do your own thing, and then they'll come knocking. Yeah. So
Yes.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Okay. And Richard.
Yes.
So I like the fact that you like to tell stories that depict the lives of diverse individuals and their cultures. So give us a little more background.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my fancy bio that I like to write, so it sounds like I do important things. But yeah, I mean, I think I got into film because I saw the lack of diversity. So I went to Ryerson for film school. After film school, I thought I was going to be like a cinematographer, and I was a cinematographer on a bunch of like short films. And time again, like those sets were basically all white, all male, and it was just like stories that some of the stories were good, and then some of the stories were just like, who cares? And I was just like, why aren't there more stories from a wider array of experiences? Like, why aren't there female protagonists? Like, why are we always seeing a guy at the head of the production as the star? Like, it was just it was frustrating to like watch that, and I was like, well, maybe I need to be a director and change that myself. So yeah, I got into directing not necessarily out of this overwhelming desire to be the person in charge, but more as a person to facilitate change in the industry.
Thank you. Well, I'll try to bring everybody back. Before we got started recording, one of the things we were talking about was with change and Black Lives Matters and storytelling. And I know that we've been telling our stories forever and a day, but they don't get seen. And then that more and more because today with the environment, with the climate, with Black Lives Matter and we and women and just different ethnicity, just diversity. Hollywood says they're doing it, but are they really? Is it really happening? Are we, what do you feel about that?
Can I just say, one of the things I look at is where we are in the levels of production. So we talk about filmmaking, but then we also have to say, well, why aren't we out there? And then we look behind the scenes and we say, well, who's writing? So one of my interesting things is to look at a movie that I like and really go to that IMDb Pro page and see who the writers are, who are the producers, who are the people making the decisions. Also, too, I know we're talking about Black Lives Matter, but I think being a woman, especially a Black woman in the business, is a little hard too. I think it primarily has been a male-centered thing, and definitely, a lot of white writing. So then again, that influences the stories that we tell.
Well, not only in this industry, I remember Miss Elliott just going off with, just trying to get her stuff done because it is a male-dominated industry. But we are powerful women. No, no disrespect, gentlemen. You are a little bit outnumbered right now.
And that's the way it should be.
But you're right. In order to make change, we need people in the higher up. And, people are excited that, Tyler Perry built a studio and so on and so forth. But, and so we're hoping that will open doors for more of us. And, and there, I mean, the stories that are out there, I've been watching a few, films from Nigeria and from the Caribbean. They're great stories. So now it's what we need, in my opinion, is that we need the change, but we also need people in distribution, not only the producers, okay, but it's in the distribution.
Yeah.
So how do we get that done?
I think that's a hard question. It's just, I think the pressure that has been put on people recently, and now that they've been able to see the success that a lot of these diverse films have been having, definitely help. I remember when my first film came out, the August the 1st, a lot of people, one of the things that constantly annoyed me actually was people would call it, and I should say white people would call it, an urban film. And it takes place in the suburbs of New Jersey. So there's nothing urban about the film, right? So I was like, okay, is that just a euphemism for black? Is that what we're calling black films now? And people would tell me constantly up front that urban films don't travel well. You're not going to sell outside of your own country, right? And you'll probably be lucky if you even sell the film. And I was, I was able to sell the film, and even to this day, it was my distributor just called me, and I can't really announce who it is yet, but they called me that they're closing on a deal 12 years later, by the way, with a major company that is now, because it seems like now a lot of these companies are looking at their catalog, seeing that they're lacking diverse content, and they bought my film when they definitely wouldn't have had it, obviously 12 years ago.
And you know what? Oh, okay. I'm just going to say it. All right. What irks me also with Black Lives Matter, okay, is that now everybody wants to be politically correct. All right. And it's almost, in my opinion, they're making it sound like we're a charity. And like, all we want is change. All right. I mean, we don't want our children to be, murdered, by police brutality, or or somebody calling 911 because they see a Black person in the park. I mean, education is definitely something that needs to be done. And I'm not education all around, and racism starts at the home. So it's, you know, you got to teach your children, but also, you know, and like you said, Lon Ray, is that what you're telling me about 12 years ago, you know, that they would, like, when I started working in advertising, I was told by distribution that nobody wants to see a black film.
Mhm.
And I've worked with several filmmakers, which, you know, even from the beginning of this film festival, when we started doing these panels, you know, we kept on being told, no, nobody wants to see that. All right. And how many people are going to buy it? But meanwhile, you know, you have Lee Daniels, you know, doing Empire. I mean, as one filmmaker said on the panel, it's ghetto, yes, but it's still out there. But then again, let's see some positivity. So, but you're right. We need to get our stories out more and bang down the doors.
See, I'm not necessarily about positivity. I'm
Me either.
I'm more about showing people of color in as normal people, if that
Right.
makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Most of the time when we see representations of people of color in film, it's not as normal, average, everyday people, right? It oftentimes is these very heightened people. Like Empire is completely out of my realm of existence, right? I don't know people like that, right? And
Right.
I think starting to tell these stories is a lot more compelling and interesting, at least from my perspective.
I want to say though, we have quite a bit of series out. Like, what does Chandra have? 3 series: Scandal, Grey's Anatomy. Oprah's doing a lot of things. So I think it seems to be a powerful time for Black women too, at least here in the States and even on Broadway. So I think I would agree with Lon Ray. Like, I like Issa Rae's stuff. It's funny.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody fall in love. What I think, in my opinion, this might be controversial, but what I think we've had in the past is a lot of like those hard urban stories. And so then to me, that becomes like, is this not blaxploitation, but why such an investment in stories about violence? Like Andre said, we just live our lives. We can fall in love. We can raise kids. We can have a problem teenager. We can try to start a business. So I think I would agree with that. But I think there's more than Empire. He gets a lot of attention, but there's so many series right now, I think.
Oh yeah, I just said Empire because it was the first thing that came to my mind. But
Yeah.
you know, Shonda Rhimes does an amazing job. You
Yeah.
know, I do like a few of the things from Tyler. I loved every movie from Tyler Perry, and you know, not because I'm Black, but I am Black. I will watch every Black film that's out there, and I started getting into a lot of the Nigerian films, and it's like they're some of them are funny, but it's life, you know. It's not nothing like, you know, Dynasty or anything like that. It's all part of, you know. Some of it's a little bit, you know, whatever, but the story is a story as long as it's getting out there. Some of it can be positive, some of it can be negative, but we're at the end of the day, we're all storytellers, and you know, and hoping that our stories are going to reach out there and inspire and touch somebody. But you know, in terms of Black Lives Matter and we're looking for change, I don't know, but we have it has to start somewhere. So it starts with you guys telling your stories. No? Yes? You know, what advice what advice would you give to upcoming filmmakers or people starting out in this industry? Who wants to go first? Richard, you're quiet.
Okay, I'll take it. So yeah, I mean, I think my first bit of advice would be that be prepared for a lot of no's. No is the first answer you're going to get. It's the last answer you're going to get. Eventually, you'll get to a yes. So you just have to be open to that. And definitely, like in terms of our stories, a lot of people, although in this one moment, it feels like you might have a better chance of getting a yes. a lot of the time you will reach that roadblock where it's like, this story isn't relevant because we already have another Black film and we don't need two. So yeah, you have to watch out. You have to be able to defend a lot of the time why your particular story might be different than someone else's. If you're just trying to get into the industry, it's difficult because a lot of the time you need someone who's already in the union to vet you. So you have to be a hustler. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. One of my tips is just go on to LinkedIn and like email anyone and everyone you possibly can, and do it in I'll say honest fashion. Like, don't write like an essay, but like write a very short, compelling pitch as to why someone should respond to your email and go for coffee eventually or have a Zoom with you. Because people will say yes. A lot of people will not respond to you, but if you're persistent, you can reach out to other filmmakers and say, hey, how'd you get your start? I would like some tips. Or, oh, what did you shoot your film on? I'd love to find out more about that. But yeah, like reach them on Vimeo, get into their DMs, find their email, whatever it takes, do it. And like reach for the stars. Like go as far up the food chain as you like. See if you can talk to Oprah.
Okay. And Zoe?
Same question.
Yeah.
I guess, for young filmmakers out there, I mean, I'm not that old. But if you want to start filmmaking right now, I think, figure out what it is that you want to do in the industry and kind of pursue that as best as you can. As I was saying before, I started out in acting, and being an actor, being a Black female actor in Toronto was like, oh, we already have one of those, so like we don't need you as well. So I think for me, it just wasn't the right place to be doing that at that time. So that's kind of why I shifted into, filmmaker and cinematographer. So I guess all that to say, find your people, find like where they would want that Black female actress at that time that you want to be that person, and go there if you can.
Well, I generally, I tell my students that, yeah, you're going to hear a lot of no's, but you have to bang down that door and you've got to be phenomenal. Would you go back to acting?
Definitely.
Is acting your first passion?
It's definitely one of my first passions. The thing I realized, actually doing acting more and more and doing it in college, was that I didn't want to compromise my values. So I didn't want to rely on acting for sort of my bread and butter, because I would potentially end up doing a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with, like doing commercials that were like misrepresented me in a way that I, the person, didn't believe with. And I realized that filmmaking was the way that I would have more control of how I was put out there.
Okay. I mean, from a teacher's point of view, I would tell you, I understand with more, different commercials and so on and so forth. If you don't like it, then you won't push it. But you have to get your foot out there, But creating your own work, absolutely. If it's not coming to you, then you create the work that you want to be part of.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad that you're doing something for yourself that you have to be passionate about it. So hopefully we'll see you back in the other end of the camera.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm in Canada's Unchecked Racism, so you can see me there.
Okay. Well, hey, that's what you got to do. And I'm going to ask you the same question, Barbara.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, damn! I forgot the question right now.
You were talking about
advice for young people.
Advice for young for.
Oh yeah. So as far as acting, solo piece is good. But one thing I learned, so this is my first film, and honestly, I hit the jackpot. I was funded all the way through for a documentary, which is crazy. It's really crazy, from going to the lab and then actually getting development funding and then getting production funding. So what I learned once I got into that world, it's almost like nepotism, honestly. Like I could see how some films, like when I look at the history of the film and I'm like, oh, well, this film was funded by Tribeca, or some of the other films that are funded by Solzant. So then I really began to see that it's like so many other fields where you got to get in somehow. And so now it's kind of like, now I'm not saying this is my road to success, but I know very well, oh, I'm a Solzant's fellow. And so now I have this whole community of other filmmakers. I have, when you go to documentary or film lab, you're able to network. So I think that's one of the things that can really help some more of us. If we can get in those doors, if we can get into like a script development lab or something like that. Also, too, for me as a filmmaker, I know a lot of people just shoot. I would still stick to budget because I want to finish. And with that in mind, I think about the writing. So when I first started writing, I was writing these really huge pieces, like cast of thousands. But then as I started thinking about making a film and writing, I started scaling back. So what's a story that I can tell that happens in a day, that happens in this one location? You know what I mean? Like that. So I'll stop there, but I think those are some of the things to think about. And I do think that it's really hopeful because from what I'm kind of hearing, not a lot of people are shooting. So then there might be this this kind of room for people that already have stuff in the can, or they already have stuff written, or maybe if it's a doc, it just needs finishing funds. So, and yes, I agree to all that. It's going to be a lot of no's. That's like acting. It's going to be a lot of no's. So you have to have a thick skin and really believe in what you're doing and, pitch it and try to sell it. So.
And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Zoe. Is acting your first passion?
I do love acting. I've been acting since I was little. I started actually training when I was younger, high school, middle school training in opera. So I love the stage. I also love film as well. One of the people that I admire most is Barbara Streisand. And so I admire her because she takes like 4 credits. She's going to take director. No, it's not always above board. Okay, there's probably some little game to it. But I don't know, she's a great writer, but she still takes that writing, director, producing, acting credit. And that's really the vision that I had for myself. But now, I don't know. I feel like maybe I might be moving more into directing. My mentor is Vera Katz, who's been at Howard forever, and she's like, "Baby, you're gonna still stick with the acting. Forget about that." But there's something in me that likes it. But I think as a writer, I would be willing to give away a story. So I'm not just going to write everything and then I have to be in everything. That might be my one criticism of Tyler Perry, but I'm willing to, yeah, because honestly, I shouldn't say this. I'll probably never work again, but being in New York, there's great people who want to work with him, honestly. And, so I just saying that to say, like, I like sharing. And if I write something, I'll give it away. You know what I mean? Like, I want the story to be told. And that's a place I never thought I'd be because I love being in the camera and stuff like that. So, but I think I want to leave it open. And also I'm aging. So right now my daughter's like, you look young, but now's the time to maybe be your age. So I'm open to all of it. I think we can do all of it. Actors make really good directors. Amazing directors and writers too.
Well, you know what? As actors, I mean, not all actors, but those who venture into writing or filmmaking, and I've been very fortunate that there's a few of my students who started with me at a young age, and now they they're not acting, but they're doing filmmaking. They're winning awards and film festivals of all, and my oldest student, actually, Barbara, taking classes with me right now is 90 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
I love that.
And she's like, "You can't yell at me. I'm 90 years old." I'm like, look, know your lines, okay?
Right. Get on your mark.
Yeah.
So cute.
Don't give me any excuses. Landry, I'm coming to you. We talked about inspiring and advice to actors, not actors, but filmmakers or people in the industry, and being patient. All right. And like, for an example, I've had like filmmakers come and they'll bring me their script and I will, consult them, and okay, you need to do A, B, C, D, not in terms of the writing, but you need to, get an agent to pitch this. Or, I work a lot with filmmakers. I work with a few film schools here in Montreal. And so I tell them, well, bring your script, hire a producer, or if you want to send it to a production company. And they're like, well, I want it done today.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to explain to them, listen, some films take 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 years. What is the longest it's taken you to do your features?
So let's see. My first feature, are you talking from writing to shooting to... So my first feature, I think that took me about maybe 2 years to write. And then, we shot it in how many days? We shot it in 20 days or 22 days or something like that. And then it probably took another 6 months or so to edit it. And then my second feature took about a year to write, and then 18 days to shoot, and then another 6 months or so, maybe a little longer to edit it. Now, I also had a script in between that I had written that still has not been produced. It was a bigger, it was a bigger scale film. And sometimes when you have those, that's going to take a while. You're going to have to be patient with that. You're going to have to, just like you guys are saying, you're going to have to get a ton of no's. One route that I've always taken myself is kind of doing it myself. So both of my features are actually micro budget features that I was like, I know that I can get funding for this. I know that I'm writing it for a certain scale, and I know that I can make this happen. So one of my thoughts is there's no excuse to not make the film that you want to make in today's day and age, right? Because you can make a film off your iPhone if you want to. So I totally believe if you want to make films, you can make films. So the point of entry isn't as difficult as it was, say, 20 years ago. You can find an audience. You can make your films, get better. Keep making your films is what I always tell people.
Okay, thank you. And as I keep on telling my students, technology is changing. I mean, when I started doing this, and I don't want to say I'm the oldest one on the panel, but I'm fabulous at 54. So, and everybody's like, yeah, you're the oldest on the panel. Okay.
I'm 52, so you're not quite. You got me by 2 years.
But I know starting out was like, I mean, you had to get the film, and it wasn't like you had to certain cameras you had to get. Now you can shoot with an iPhone, so like there's like Lon Ray said, there's no excuse. So it's just a matter of like finding that passion, that inspiration that get to do the story. And I do believe there's great stories in each and every one of us and moving forward. My other question, okay, is I always tell people the success is waking up in the morning and doing what you love. Is what you're doing bringing you joy? Richard.
Why are you picking
you look like you got a secret, and I just got to get that out of you.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes filmmaking isn't necessarily a joy, and sometimes it's a pain. So I'll just pitch my short film. It's called Uninvited Guest, and it's basically I like to describe it as a dinner party in the Twilight Zone by way of racial profiling and police brutality. So, yeah, I mean, in so many ways, like there's not a lot of joy in that particular film, and maybe this is a bad example, but yeah, sometimes your art isn't necessarily a feel-good thing. It maybe gets you out of bed for the wrong reasons in some respects. So that's sort of, I guess, why my facial expression was what it was there. I love the film in some respects, but yeah, it's a film that makes me really uncomfortable, and I kind of like that at the same time. I like when I write, I like writing things that make me uncomfortable. Something that might make me cry in the writing process is amazing. But yeah, it's not. Some days you don't want to do it, and it isn't necessarily a joy. And even seeing it finished is not necessarily a joy. Like you watch it and you cringe because, oh, I wish we had $10,000 more because of X, or I wish I'd hired a different actor, or I wish whatever. Because I don't know. I think artists sometimes feel like it's never good enough. So that's my perspective on why I had that reaction to your question or statement.
Oh, but you know what?
You asked for honest responses.
Oh no, hey, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, you know, not every. I know working with actors sometimes where I'm like, and then and yeah, sometimes I'll be like, oh no, I need to go and get a drink. Or 2 or 3 or 4 until I'm out. But I think what we do enlightens people. I mean, listen, we're not fighting world peace or, hoping to get Trump out. Sorry, get him out, vote.
I don't think
American,
you have to apologize for that.
Yeah, okay, but just because
you don't. We live with him.
Yeah, but you never know who's watching. One of my teachers told me, "No, we're not doing TikTok because it's a something for the Chinese," and I'm like, "You really buy into that?" Zoe,
Yes.
your final thoughts. Your final.
Kind of what jumping off of what Laundry was saying earlier. If you have a film, if you have an idea, just make it. My first film was a project for an art class that I shot on a Canon T2i and a zoom lens with a $20 tripod. But that film went to a bunch of little festivals and got some recognition and really got me started as a filmmaker. So to hop back on, like, what would I tell young filmmakers, new filmmakers just starting out? If you have an idea, just make it.
Okay. And I'm going, Barbara.
So maybe I'm too much of a perfectionist, but before I went to film school and I was in most of the short films I was in before I was in union got made. But once I got in film school, honestly, I really saw the value of doing that budget. Because it's not necessarily that you're going to get all the money, but I think the interesting thing that happens is then you start looking at, like, what's it really going to take? And then you have tons of resources. These may not be resources that you're going to pay for, but you're also, that's another thing, to being in a community of filmmakers. You know what I mean? But until I really conceptualize and sit and think out, like, how much is this going to, take? Because again, I want to finish. And so that's kind of my thing. But again, the most important thing I think about that is really that allows you to stretch out and see where the resources are. And you can do a little bit of bartering. I do think you have to feel passionate about the project to really finish it, especially with doc work. And the kind of work that I do, cinema verite, I mean, it's not like interviewing. So you have to follow the person and really commit to it. And it can be a lot of up and down. But that's what I think. And I think there's so many festivals. A lot of people were like, oh, it's so hard to get into festival. And then one thing I'll also say, once you get there, meet people. So then it seems like we keep getting into festival after festival. However, it was kind of a numbers game. So that's kind of that's the short end of it. Yeah, what I would say.
Okay. Laundry.
So what question?
Your final thoughts. Your
Final thoughts. Final thoughts on everything that we've been talking about. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna, like, if I were to offer any advice or anything to anybody, kind of like what Richard had said in the beginning, almost. It's a Gandhi quote, I believe, too. Be the change that you wish to see in the world, but be the change that you wish to see in the world of filmmaking. So if you want to see more diverse stories, go out and make your more diverse stories. Write those more diverse stories. Be that change, because if you're not going to do it, then no one else is.
Okay. Well, I mean, before we do sign off, okay, I'm going to go around again and just for you guys to pitch your film that's going to be screened at the Montreal International Black Film Festival, which will be streaming. Encourage everybody, if I don't know when this is broadcasting, but go on to the website and purchase your pass and see some great films from around the world. And check out Barbara's film. So Barbara here.
Oh, sorry, put my mic back on. So my film is Ballet After Dark. In this film, we followed Ty Courtney Edwards, who is a African-American classically trained dancer who lives in Baltimore, millennial age. And the film took us on quite a journey. In the life of the film that we show, Tide is actually a classically trained millennial, kind of struggling to become a dancer. And then she is sexually assaulted, violently assaulted. And so this propels her into a dark space, but then she heals herself through dancing. And so now she's out in the world with this mission to heal other people through classical dancing. And she does a lot of this through social media. So a lot of interesting, Tide is what I would call a flawed hero. I love flawed heroes. I love awkwardness. I'm not really into fairy tales. Our story ends fairly well, but that's just, she's telling her own story. But, you know, in my real life, I think I just let the story tell itself. And luckily it ends on a happy note. We also have animation, which is very important for the life of the film. It covers a lot of her emotional journey. And so I think this is just an uplifting film. It's a matter of who she is. You know, she's just who she is. There's not a lot of filters there. And she's in Baltimore. She's not in New York. And I think the thing about Ty that encourages people in this film is that she just won't quit. I mean, there's a lot of layers. It's like, well, what is she doing with this? A little bit of craziness, but she has this passion. And, you know, she just kind of pushes that forward into the world. So we're very excited about it. I think it's enjoyable.
Thank you. And
you're welcome.
Richard, I was going to.
Here we go. Yeah, so my film is An Uninvited Guest. As I mentioned before, it's basically I'll call it a dinner party in the Twilight Zone, and you should definitely check it out. It's 3 minutes of oddness that I think you can't miss out on, and I would be evil if I did not mention that this got funded thanks to the Ontario Arts Council, and they are amazing. So yeah, come check out my film.
Okay. And Lonray?
Yes, so my film is called A Storybook Ending, and it is a neo-noir dark comedy about a black man who accidentally kills an undercover white police officer in self-defense, and the subsequent cover-up sets off a chain reaction of deceit, blackmail, and ultimately murder.
Okay, and sorry, of course, now I'm getting really good at this.
Yeah, my film is called Canada's Unchecked Racism. It's a short documentary that I made for my MFA thesis at Howard University. The film follows myself and my younger brother as we grow up in Toronto and experience some of that sort of unchecked racism that happens growing up Black and Canadian. So check it out for sure.
Okay. So I'd like to thank our panel guests for coming in and sharing on this evening. And I do not know when this is going to be streamed, but thank you for watching, and we hope that we leave you with uh, knowledge, inspiration to follow your dreams. Success is waking up in the morning and doing what you love to do. So keep on doing what you love to do and enjoy Montreal International Black Film Festival. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Check out the website at montrealblackfilm.com and grab your all-access pass to support these very films from the festival, a virtual edition online, so that means it's accessible to you too. Enjoy, and thank you for amplifying Black voices.